Right, morning everybody. Welcome, Crocio, to our event this morning. Glad to see we've got a really good turnout today. So my name's Derry Bevan. I work for the Wales TUC. I'm going to be sort of chairing the event today, setting the scene a little bit. I haven't got any slides, any formal slides, but we will be posting a lot of things up in the chat because there's a lot of information and quite detailed information on this subject that I think reps and their colleagues would need to be aware of. So to set the scene, this morning we'll be looking in quite a lot of detail really at sort of youth unemployment and job creation schemes in Wales. We'll be sort of examining what's currently out there. Existing schemes, many of you will have heard of the Kickstart scheme, but also things like, apprenticeship funding, some of the resources that are available via like DWP, Welsh Government, and also the TUC to help reps understand this agenda really and discuss what's currently available and also what might be put in place in the future going forward. Crucially, a big focus of today is going to be on the role of trade unions and the role of reps on this agenda. I think probably you've all heard a lot in the media around, sort of the issues around youth unemployment, the announcement back last year around UK government's Kickstart scheme. Just this morning, there was a new story about, the payments for employers for furlough is going to be reduced as of tomorrow. And we know that's going to have a big impact on young workers. So this is, a huge agenda for us. And today's aimed at reps and officials, really. And hopefully by the end of it, there's an awful lot of information and sort of noise around in the media around this. And hopefully by the end of it, what we'd like you to get out of this, really, is to understand the trade union role, your role as a rep, and where you can go for support to take this forward in your workplaces. It is a lot of information. So if you don't pick it all up from today, we in the TUC, we have a lot of sort of qualified and well-trained people who understand this agenda, understand the different funded schemes and the different issues around this. So as an appeal at the start, really, if you are interested in developing this with your employers, within your workplace, please feel free to give us a shout at the Wales TUC. Like I said, we've got a lot of staff who'll be willing to come and see you if we're allowed, or meet you online and talk you through a lot of this. It's the first event we're having, and it's the start of a big and I think very long ongoing agenda for the Wales TUC and for the trade union movement as a whole. Welsh Government and governments around the world have, addressing youth unemployment as a priority, and understandably so, for the foreseeable future. And as a movement, I think the first thing I'd want to say is that this is a huge opportunity for us as a trade union movement in a weird sort of way to address some of the challenges that we know exist within trade union movements around age demographic and membership, around recruitment, around retention, and also allowing us, maybe if we do this right, to open up some dialogue with employers on, future work issues and workforce planning. So there's, it's really important that we look at this agenda in as much detail as we possibly can, really carefully, and engage with it as a movement. So I'm looking forward to the day to get as many ideas and sort of back from yourselves and listen to the speakers. We've got some excellent speakers today to shape our work on this agenda going forward. So we've got a lot to get through, so I better do the housekeeping bit first, otherwise Flick will kill me. So we are recording the event to be able to share it more widely afterwards on our website and that sort of thing, but only the speakers will appear on anything we share in the recording, so your face won't end up on our website at any point. There is a code of conduct which has been posted in our chat in Welsh and English, so please take a bit of time to read that so you understand that. We will be having a Q&A at the end. All the speakers, when all the speakers are finished. So please put any questions you have in the Q&A box as we go. We'll be collecting them for a big discussion at the end, and sort of use the chat box to talk to each other or sort of report technical issues. You can post in the chat box in Welsh or English. We do have closed captions. To use them, please press the CC button at the bottom of your screen to access them. And the session's an hour and a half long, and the agenda has already been posted in the chat. So there we are. That's the housekeeping over and done with. So like I said, this is about today how unions can best support young people into sustainable, quality, long-term employment. And I think really important from the outset, really, to sort of stress that term quality employment. I think from a union point of view, I think too often in the past approaches to employability and job creation have been maybe a little bit any job will do sort of attitude from a union perspective. And we think that's counterproductive. I think in the long term, it won't have the effects on the economy that we're looking for. And there is definitely evidence out there that, certain forms of work, precarious work, 0-hour contracts, the sort of jobs that a lot of young people at entry level end up in are no longer a guaranteed way out of poverty. And, there's quite a lot of research that shows that some of that type of work can actually be detrimental to young people's well-being. So We don't think it's good enough anymore to push people into sort of poor quality and precarious work. That's a big focus for us. And I'll be coming on to say a bit more about that in a bit. We know that these sort of jobs tend to have less access to training, less access to workplace progression, no voice of work. So we've got some examples today of how that doesn't have to be the case. With a good employer working in partnership with unions and with government, we can address some of those issues right off the bat. And I think that's the first there's three sort of levels I think unions can be involved in this agenda. And I think that's the first one. We've got a unique position as unions to negotiate with employers around the quality of work placements, to negotiate protections for the worker, ongoing wraparound support, to give that young person a good experience of the working environment. And I think that's a really important sort of first point to make from a union point of view. And with that in mind, today, I'm really pleased that we've got colleagues with us to showcase some best practice in this area. We've got colleagues from Merthyr Valley Homes, Candy Passmore, along with United Wolf Project, Richard Jackson and Sue DeCasto, who are going to tell you about the fantastic work they've been doing using Kickstart as a funded scheme to a point, give placements to a lot of young workers from the area, and then provide additional wraparound support with the unions in partnership through the Wales Union Learning Fund. I think this is a great example of a socially responsible approach to job creation. We're working in partnership with the employer, with the union, and we want to highlight this. I think this is going to be a key sort of presentation today, because we'd like to hopefully replicate this model in other unionised workplaces. We also got some colleagues from Welsh Government joining us today. We've got Nick McNeil and Emma Benger from Welsh Government. They're going to talk about current and future policy direction around job creation and youth employment. How to support young people into work, what's going to happen in the future, maybe telling us a little bit about the recently announced Young Persons Guarantee that came out in the programme for government a couple of weeks ago. Well, as much as they can. I don't know how much detail they'll be able to put on that quite yet. And then finally, the final presentation will be my colleague Gareth Hathaway, who many of you will know. He'll be telling you through one of our new sort of toolkit resources for reps called Reaching Young Workers. This is aimed specifically at reps to help you support and recruit young workers in the workplace. But most importantly, we want to hear from you. So we're going to be having a big Q&A at the end. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this will be more of a discussion based. There'll be lots of questions coming in. And we want your insights into how this can work in practice within your workplaces and within your sectors. And I think that's a really important area for us. So as well as the first point, which is, unions having an impact on the quality of placements being offered, the second reason why I think unions and trade unions should be centred to this agenda is the issue of fairness. Young people have had a really rough time of it. It's been well documented. COVID, like in so many other ways, has made this worse, but it's just really added problems onto what was already an existing problem, I think. I mean, over a fifth of young workers have worked on 0-hour contracts in the last 5 years. This rises to nearly 1/3 of young workers when you're earning less money on £20,000 a year. We recently did some research with YouGov, which showed that tens of thousands of young workers believe they're treated unfairly on pay and have absolutely no say in the workplace. More than 1 in 3 said they're not paid fairly at work. 1 in 5 said they wouldn't even be comfortable raising an issue with their management in work. 1 in 3 say that it's difficult for them to get training that they need. So we know that we're starting from a low base in terms of supporting young workers. The UN has voiced concerns that the pandemic could lead to a lockdown generation, that people could face permanent exclusion from the labour market with being disadvantaged. And that's what people talk about, the long-term scarring effect of this. So this is why at the TUC we are doing these sort of events, why we are campaigning hard to drive up union membership amongst young workers, because obviously young workers need unions now more than ever, but obviously we need young people more than ever as well. If you look at the age demographic of our unions, Gareth's going to take you through some of that later on, and some of the stats around union membership are a little bit worrying, to say the least. So I think, just to reiterate, really, I think we need to view this as a trade union movement as an opportunity as well. We need to be heavily involved in this agenda. We will hear a little bit later on about the Welsh Government's commitment to a young person's guarantee, and we do welcome that in TUC. It guarantees a place of work, a place in work, education, training, or self-employment for everyone under 25 in Wales. But it's clear from our point of view that we need to go further, and we need to focus, as I've said, on the quality of those jobs as well. We need to avoid making the same mistake we made in the last recession, which was pushing young people into poor quality and insecure jobs. We need to learn those lessons, I think. The other thing I think is, as we're talking about today, and work placements, which is they get talked about and they're interchangeable sometimes, I think, and work placements are important, and that's what things like Kickstart look at. But I think the third role, and this is the third level that trade unions can be involved in, is turning those work placements into sustainable and good quality jobs. And that is, that's a massive role for trade unions here. And that's the sort of thing is like looking at other options like apprenticeship funding, using negotiation with employers to keep some of these young people on after they've been through their work placements. There's a clear role for collective bargaining in this. I don't think we'll address the issues I've just sort of briefly outlaid already by just leaving it to government employers to work on this alone. I think unions can play a massive role in this. Like I said, negotiating, using things like even Wolf, apprenticeship funding, other schemes that involve wage subsidies to keep as many young people in work as possible after their placement. So the other opportunity, I think, for us, which, is it sort of one I think is worth exploring from a union point of view, is that we can use this agenda to open up discussions with employers on things like workforce planning, succession planning. We know that there are other issues that trade unions are dealing with, things like decarbonisation, just transition, automation in the workplace, that we are struggling to make headway with employers on because we're not having those discussions around future workforce planning. And I think, again, this agenda could feed into that. And finally, before I stop, my games and move on to the actual point of the speakers today, it's important to say that it's not just Kickstart. We are talking more broadly around job creation here. We did some work with the transitional economics recently that said, as part of the economic recovery, potentially it could be 60,000 jobs coming into Wales as, if there was decent investment in key infrastructure. And that's really exciting for trade unions. But if you look at the sectors and the industries that they said that those could be in, and if you look at where most of the Kickstart placements were offered, in the sorts of employers and sectors where most of the Kickstart placements were offered, we are looking at heavily unionised workplaces. We're looking at social housing, we're looking at construction, transport, energy, manufacturing, the public sector. So just to sort of point out that there is a massive opportunity here. And I think, this is the start of a big piece of work. So just to recap, we've got three sort of areas, I think, from a trade union point of view that unions and you as reps can have a massive impact on. One is the quality of the placements and the quality of the jobs, negotiating for those so that they get a decent experience of coming into the workplace. The fairness and rights of work when they're in the workplace, protecting those young workers, talking to those young workers, recruiting those young workers once they're in the workplace. And then crucially at the end, sustaining those jobs and making so those placements don't just become sort of work experience. They are sustained. They do turn into sustainable long-term jobs. Got lots of other examples. We're about to move on to a brilliant example now that I've already mentioned. There are other examples out there. We'd like to know as many as possible from you. I'm aware of some where they've negotiated quotas with apprenticeships in the rail industry, for example, and we're going to move on to the Mercer Valley Homes example from the housing sector now. But just as a final appeal, the TUC are going to be doing a lot of work on this. You as reps, if you haven't been involved yet, please get in touch and we'll support you to get involved. If you have got some good examples where unions are already doing good work on this, we need to know as many of them as possible. So I'll stop bumping my gums now. It's not bad. I usually go about 10 minutes over. But so I'm going to hand you over to Candy Passmore, Richard Jackson and Sue DeCasto. They're going to take you through the best practice example that I mentioned earlier. This is something we want to see replicated in other workplaces. And I'll hand you over to Candy and the others.
Hi everyone, lovely to meet you all. My name's Candy Passmore from Mercer Valley Homes. I've been working on the Kickstart project since October last year. We became a host in January this year, which we're absolutely delighted. Since then, we've been working in very close partnership with Unite, to see how we can work in collaboration to make the most of this scheme. So in terms of today's presentation, my part from Mercer Valley Homes, we have developed a video which I'm going to showcase. So I'm just about to share my link. Fingers crossed it works. Can everyone hear that?
Hi, I'm Candy Passmore, and Development Partner with the responsibility of developing employment projects. In January 2021, we signed the official agreement to become a host for Kickstart. We are delighted to support the government's initiative to help reduce long-term youth unemployment. In 2019, our mutual introduced Brighter Futures, a fantastic project to help develop new skills and support tenants into employment. With Kickstart being an employment project, we felt it was key to embrace this project under our Brighter Future scheme. As a mutual organisation, we also felt it was important to give opportunities back to our communities. We do recognise youth unemployment has been exacerbated as a result of the pandemic, as highlighted in the next slide. Identifying quality placements. It was important we created quality placements. We did this by working with our internal teams to identify valuable placements that could offer a variety of opportunities. For example, grounds maintenance, human resources, community wellbeing, caretaking and governance. This is in addition to traditional trade and administration-based placements. Kickstart scheme is an excellent opportunity for young people to gain valuable work experience and for us as a mutual to promote careers in housing. We work closely with Matthew Jones, our Head of Repairs and Maintenance, to get organisations on board who are on our contractor framework and also as part of their community benefits. We welcomed community partnership organisations on board, such as Town Community Hub and many other companies, to create opportunities for young people. We are proud to have 31 placements on board, 14 of which are internal at Merthyr Valley's Homes. We are still in the process of recruiting for an additional 5 placements, so we are hoping Cohort 1 will support a total of 36 placements. We are pleased to have naturally welcomed some of our tenants onto Kickstart. We supported this by advertising the scheme with our internal departments who work closely with our tenants. What makes a difference to our Kickstart scheme is we recruited an employment support coordinator, Lisa Parry. Lisa's role is to manage our placements and provide dedicated support to coach and mentor young people to embed good work ethics to help them succeed in the future.
Hi, my name is Lisa Parry. I'm the Employment Support Coordinator for the Kickstart scheme at Merthyr Valley's Homes. My role is to provide support to all the Kickstart placements, whether they're Merthyr Valley Homes or with our contractor vacancies. With the Merthyr Valley Homes placements, we meet on a regular basis. We've done development plans where we've identified any training needs, if there's any support they want in their role. With the external placements, we touch base once a week just to see how they're getting on. And if the contractors want any further support, I'm here to provide it. We have faced some challenges along the way. Attendance has been one of the issues, but we have addressed these issues on a one-to-one basis with the young people. And we do understand that some of these people, young people, have come out of school or college, and work environments are all new to them. So we just we take them to one side. We just want to set their expectations and put them in good stead for future employment. Our aim at the end of the placement is we'd like all the young people to have enjoyed their placement, and they can take with them some experience, knowledge and valuable skills.
Hi, my name is Rachel Thomas and I'm part of the Kickstart support programme. My role within the Kickstart programme is to identify and arrange training for our Kickstart placements. We have realised that we have a lot of expertise and experience already within Merthyr Valley's Homes, and we want to draw on such resource in order to deliver some in-house training. So we've called upon some of our staff and teams to deliver some excellent training courses. These are minute taking, which was delivered by our ownership and engagement team, trauma-informed approach and project management, which was delivered by our community development team, money management, which is being delivered by our income support team, and team working, which will be delivered in the future by one of our other teams within the department. It's really important that we can provide realistic quality training for our Kickstart placements to ensure that they get the best training and the best experience they can possibly get while they are spending their 6 months with us. We want to provide a wide variety of training which we can draw on internally and externally to help them get the best possible start for their future.
In addition to the training Rachel Thomas has discussed, we also ensure young people have access to recognised funded qualifications. For example, the majority of placements have completed a CSCS card or currently studying an MVQ in business administration, depending on the type of placement. As part of our bid, we committed to DWP to deliver employability skills to all young people on placements. This will include developing an engaging CV, support with intensive job searching, and interview skills training that will also include a mock interview providing constructive feedback. We're also looking to set up a jobs club in WhatsApp to promote job opportunities. As a summary, our model is based upon providing quality placements that gives an opportunity to achieve new skills, knowledge, and experience. Overall, our aim is to increase future chances of employment and inspire young people to pursue a career path. Our model starts with a lot of passion to create an environment for young people to thrive. Development plans have been an essential way to identify barriers. We recognise everyone's barriers will be different, but the most common we have identified are employability skills, having the right tools, being able to drive, access to training, and confidence. We try to identify these early on in the placements, so we have plenty of time to help overcome them. Quality mentors play a huge role in our model. For example, having committed supervisors, managers, and a dedicated employment support coordinator to mentor young people to carry out meaningful work tasks and develop their skill set. The importance of working in partnership with unions. We have always had a good working relationship with our trade unions, but we're pleased to be working in partnership with Unite the Union on our Kickstart scheme. This partnership allows us to deliver more training to overcome more barriers into future employment for young people. By Unite funding key training like asbestos awareness, confidence building, CAT and scan, and working at heights, this allows young people to use their training allowance to purchase specialised training, tools, and access driving lessons that help young people succeed in the future. The partnership is not just about accessing additional funding, it's about working in collaboration with Unite to access specialised training that really makes a difference. So, for example, a major barrier we identified was confidence in young people. Unite connected us with an inspiring tutor called Victoria English to deliver confidence building. How this training makes a difference is working with young people who in their lives may have experienced different life experiences that may have an impact on their confidence. This training is designed to develop young people's confidence and encourage a growth mindset to achieve a fulfilling career.
I'm Michael Thomas and I am a Kickstart trainee with Merthyr Valley's Homes. I'm currently training to be a plasterer and hoping to be a qualified plasterer at the end of my training. I'm being taught by Mansell Mason, who is a great mentor and has learned me a lot of new skills that I will take on in my career. Mansell has made my time with Merthyr Valley Homes super enjoyable and let me take part in multiple trades such as carpentry, painting, plastering and tiling. Merthyr Valley Homes has issued me with a training fund that I will use to buy tools and driving lessons that will help me in my future career and make it a lot more easier for me.
Hi, my name is Heather Williams and I'm a HR training assistant at Merthyr Valley Homes. With the Kickstart scheme, I'm able to gain so many experiences and improve on my skills while also gaining some new ones along the way in such a short amount of time. I've been given the chance to take part in many big and small projects such as creating and improving courses on learning proof staff members. I've also been included and I've taken part in many team meetings where I've always been encouraged in to give my views and opinions on. I've been given such a great opportunity to be able to try something different and something new, which I'd never even considered before, such as a career in HR or office-based. I am really enjoying my placement in Merthyr Valley Homes so far because I'm always doing something different and new, and the staff are always very encouraging and there to help along the way. I feel it's really benefited me for the future, as it's given me new experiences and skills which I'd never pick up from anyone else. So I can't wait to see what else my placement's going to give me. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Abby and I am currently employed with Merthyr Valley Homes through the Kickstarter scheme. I was offered the interview by Merthyr Job Centre, and once I found out the role consisted of, I was very eager to do well in the interview, to say the least. My job consists of planning and organising events for elderly people, but due to COVID at the moment, I make well-being phone calls just to check in on them and see how they're doing. I really enjoy this aspect of my job because it allows me to establish a relationship with tenants who would be more so less lonely if they didn't have that call every week. I'm very grateful for the Kickstarter scheme because it has allowed me to improve on new and existing skills, and it has really helped build my confidence. I'm currently studying for my NVQ Business Admin and I've passed my first exam. I also want to say I'm very grateful for all the staff at Merthyr Valley Homes and how lovely they all are.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Rees and I'm a part of the Kickstart scheme for Merthyr Valley Homes. Since my time with Merthyr Valley Homes, I have received some excellent training off Merthyr Valley Homes, one of which was minute taking. We had an exercise where we sat in with two long-standing team members of Merthyr Valley Homes, and it gave me a clear understanding of how to take minutes efficiently. They've also provided me with the opportunity to get an NVQ in business admin in partnership with Tidwell Training, which would be a huge opportunity to put on a CV going forward. Overall, I have been very, very happy with my experience with Merthyr Valley Homes, and I hope the experience I've gained with Merthyr Valley Homes and some of the training and qualifications with the NVQ leads to further employment in the future. Thank you, Mitchell Rees.
Thanks everyone for watching. I think those videos at the end there with the feedback are quite invaluable. So I'm going to hand you over now to Sue and Richard for their part of the presentation.
Thanks, Candy. So we haven't done anything quite as technologically advanced as a video. We're going to good old-fashioned death by PowerPoint, I'm afraid, everyone. So all going well. I'll share the screen and my computer won't spontaneously combust as it does now and again. So Sue's going to lead. She is, Sue.
I'm here. I'm just checking how I can take over control of your screen. It's up there. Excuse me, I'm not the techie one in this partnership. There you go. So good morning, everyone. I'm Sue De Casto. I'm the Regional Learning Organiser for Unite the Union and a Wales Union Learning Fund project. I'm here this morning with my colleague and fellow RLO, Richard Jackson, to talk about our partnership with Merthyr Valley Homes and the support we've been able to offer through our project to their Kickstart scheme. We're also hoping to illustrate the benefits of working as part of a social partnership to both unions and employers alike, and to illustrate that as a collective we can work together to overcome common challenges facing Welsh workers in a fluctuating labour market. I'm going to skip over a couple of slides just because we ran out of time. A little bit about Wolf and Unite, the Unite Wolf project. Wolf has been around for over 20 years now, supporting learners in the Welsh workforce. Unite's one of the biggest unions in Wales. We've got over 2,000 recognised workplaces and a membership that covers all sectors. And over the years, we've supported tens of thousands of learners, helping them to access training and lifelong learning. And we support a wide range of organisations and employers to develop and deliver a range of workplace vocational training programmes. Why is Wolf successful? Because Wolf has, over time and of necessity, developed strategies and solutions to deal with the inherent difficulties of successful workplace engagement. We have a flexible, innovative response to meeting the needs and demands of learners in an economic environment, and we've got a wealth of resources and experience to respond to skills gaps across most sectors. We can offer funding, bespoke training, and an excellent advisory and signposting service. We consider partnership work the best route to success. We work closely with Welsh Government agencies, sister unions, and all relevant stakeholders to ensure that what's essentially limited resources are used as effectively as possible to directly support the Welsh workforce. So in July 2020, Welsh Government published their COVID commitment to employability and skills, which was a package of £40 million, and it would be targeted at those who were considered already disadvantaged in the labour market and suffering from the impact of the pandemic. This would include, particularly from a Unite perspective, those impacted by job losses and redundancies. Unite alone had over 6,500 members who were directly affected by redundancies. Other groups include disabled people, women, the BAME community, and those on low incomes with low skills, and not forgetting that the young people that we're here to talk about today. Delivery focused on a range of service provision, particularly an expansion of frontline services through Working Wales. But what of particular interest to Unite was the retraining support for existing workforce to help people upskill and retrain, particularly in those sectors where jobs were hard hit, to help them transfer to other sectors if needed. So alongside the UK government's Kickstart scheme, Wales TUC invited applications from unions through their Wolf projects to apply for funding that would demonstrate effective ways to create and deliver retraining and upskilling opportunities to those impacted by COVID. So here there's a list on the right-hand side at the bottom of particular areas of concern for Welsh Government. In consultation with the Wales TUC, Unite submitted a bid that focused on particularly Kickstart, digital innovations, upskilling, job progression, and essential skills delivery. A lot of these are areas that we're already working in and delivering on, but the Kickstart programme was a completely new area for us. So our partnership with Merthyr Valleys goes back some time. We worked with them in 2013 as part of a multi-union forum. We were able to help them deliver essential skills, OSATs and CSCS training for their trade staff, which is a very successful programme. Recently, since 2019, we've been supporting their mental health and wellbeing programme for staff, and we've been able to support this by providing funding and tutors to deliver a range of mental health and CPD development. So we were absolutely delighted to be able to work with Merthyr Valleys Homes. When we submitted the bid for additional funding, we focused on our Social Housing Association cluster and partners in local authorities, because it seemed obvious that these were the sectors that would take advantage of the Kickstart offer. As I said, we've got a long-standing partnership with Merthyr Valley's Homes. They've got good working relationships with numerous unions in the workplace, and they have a huge commitment to the wider community through their Brighter Futures programme. So we were very excited to be able to have an opportunity to work with such a great employer. So our offer to them was to build an individualised package of wraparound training that would enhance and complement what their already substantial training offer for their Kickstart placements. In consultation with them, we identified the aims of our working partnership, to find collective solutions to common problems and remove barriers to employment, to identify and fulfill training for skills gaps that can't be met by the employer. So, for example, we can provide additional funding and specialist training that they might not have been aware of. Sorry, I've just forwarded too quickly. I knew I'd do that. So through this partnership, we've been able to help identify, as Candy said in her presentation, a particular area of concern was confidence and communication skills, which we're very excited about. It's a new programme, and our tutor has individualised it to meet the needs of that particular group of placements. We've also provided additional training, which Candy's already outlined, and this is not a finite list. It's quite an organic process, and what we're able to do is develop those training package as we go, because we're looking at making sure they're as confident and qualified as possible at the end of their placements, and looking forward to supporting them once their placements have ended. Candy again has outlined the fantastic package of support that MVH have been able to offer.
Yes, Sue. So I'll take over now. So yeah, really the programme is about helping the placements develop a pathway to success. It's difficult to see how these individuals would have overcome the barriers to unemployment in the long term without the support that they've received from Merthyr Valley Homes and the Wolf Project. We're confident that support provided builds a solid foundation for the placements, providing improved opportunities to seek further training or access gainful employment following the conclusion of their Kickstart placements. The last thing any of us want following the conclusion of this scheme is for these young people to return homes after their placements conclude and return to being a statistic on the unemployment register with little hope or prospects of obtaining meaningful employment. There's always a risk, I think, that, for the way particularly universal credit works, they get driven into, low-skilled, low-paid employment, and above all else, insecure employment. So what we've looked to do is build a best practice approach, and we're confident that the partnership that we've developed between Merthyr Valley Homes and Unite Wolf provides an example of best practice for other employers, trade unions and stakeholder agencies to follow. Our position as a trade union allows us to take this best practice example and promote it within our network of unionised workplaces and organisations that exist throughout Wales. Unions have a clear role to advocate for those who may not have a strong voice. In this instance, young people who need help to get onto the jobs ladder. It'd be great to see this programme or something similar continue in the long term, as it provides fantastic practical opportunities for young people to get the skills they need to obtain employment. These are opportunities that young people would find difficult to access elsewhere. I'm going to steal a little bit of Gareth's thunder on this one, I'm afraid. So in looking at the evolving role of trade unions, the Wales TUC has taken a proactive approach in looking how to engage young people through trade unions and social partnership working. Their research has shown the demographics of union members are extremely concerning, with less than 5% of union members aged between 16 and 24, and over half of union reps now aged 50 and over. This means in the next 10 to 15 years, there's a real risk that we'll lose half of the reps that are currently existing within the unions. So we urgently need to address this demographic cliff edge. Research has shown that young workers want to get on in life, and unions can play a key role in making that happen, with learning central to the organising agenda for young people. The learning agenda has an opportunity to become a key tool in engaging and organising young people into trade unions. Many young people fail to see the value in trade unions. However, their desire to progress their careers means that support from the union learning agenda provides a unique selling point to engage younger workers and organise them into trade unions. We need to help young workers realise that unions are more than just an insurance policy for your job. They're a means of helping them to progress in life. And I know Gareth Hathaway will be talking in more detail about this shortly, but I would encourage you to please take a look at the Wales TUC Young Workers Toolkit to find out more about engaging young workers. Well, that's it from myself, Sue, and Candy. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully I haven't bored you to death with Death by PowerPoint. And please feel free to get in touch. We'll circulate this presentation to our host today to send on to all the attendees. And of course, when the Q&A arrives, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So thanks, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Candy. That was fantastic. I mean, that's exactly what we're after highlighting today. I mean, wow, those young people on that video were just, how impressive were they? Like, so Candy said before the start of this event, like how confident they were, and they were fantastic. And I think just a couple of things I just wanted to pick up before we move on to the next speaker, that confidence building, the fact you're offering this wraparound support, you know, driving lessons, things like that. I mean, like things that really have an impact on young people's lives. And it just proves, just looking at those videos of those young people, that you like. I think some employers get a bit concerned about taking on young people sometimes in these sort of schemes, and I think, like, you know, it just proves if you treat them well, you get what you put into it. Do you know what I mean? If employers and unions support these young people, you will get back what you put into it, and that's just came through in that video. Also, that the union support is, like, the partnership bit is brilliant. I think we've had a lot of discussions over the last year with Welsh Government about, you know, like schemes allowing access for unions to talk to people and participating in workplaces. And I think union access, I think it just proves it's not a dirty word. I think, like, do you know what I mean? Like, unions talking to young people to talk about their benefits and their rights at work is, you know, it's a positive thing. It's not something that's not propaganda. It's a positive thing. It's about giving people that sort of support and that socially responsible element of what we're doing. So thanks all three of you for that. That was really good. And that's, for the reps who are out there watching now, I think, you know, if you'd like any more information on how to sort of support a program just like that, we can put you in touch with Candy, Richard, Sue, and ourselves to help you move that forward in your own workplaces. Thanks all three. So moving on now, the next presentation we've got is from Neil and Emma Benja from Welsh Government. They're going to take us through some of the Welsh Government approaches and policies, current and, you know, potential future policies around supporting young people into employment. So I'll hand you over to Nick.
Thank you very much, Derry. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So yes, my name's Nick McNeil. I work in the Employability and Skills division in the Welsh Government. I've recently joined, so I guess I've got a bit of a get out clause in terms of not knowing all of the finer detail of everything, but I will do my absolute best if anybody asks any questions, or bounce them onto somebody else who can answer them. But what I've got for now is a very short presentation. Again, I kind of feel like this is second best after watching Candy's video. I think we need to start doing stuff like this in the future. So I've got a very, very short PowerPoint presentation that just outlines really the things that are happening at the moment and the things that we've got coming up. Now, it's if I just try to share this, let me go back. Where are we now? So it's this one here. Hopefully you can all see that.
Yeah, that's come up.
Fantastic. Okay, so what is it doing? Okay, so it's quite opportune actually today to be talking about all of this to you, because yesterday in the Senedd, the Minister for Economy, Vaughan Gething, made an oral statement about the Young Persons Guarantee, which is one of the key kind of program for government commitments, and the program for government itself is pretty much hot off the press. So there's a few things that I can tell you about in relation to the Young Person's Guarantee and some of the other program for government commitments. Obviously, it's early days, so a lot of this is still being developed. But I can tell you what's happening at the moment and the things that hopefully the unions can get involved with as well, and obviously supporting your employers to get involved with as well. So if I just start off with a little bit of a strategic context, it's always good to do that for government. Obviously, we have an employability plan which has been in place since 2018, with a very clear commitment to support people into employment, education, training, self-employment, any of those positive opportunities, obviously with a very close kind of a connection with Fair Work as a kind of key driving force behind that. Obviously, we've had to deal with the impacts of the COVID pandemic. And I think, was it Sue, I think, mentioned the COVID commitment in her presentation, which was a very clear kind of commitment to provide additional funding and support and lots of additional support for people who were impacted through the pandemic. Obviously, one key concern for us is the end of the furlough scheme, which is rapidly approaching, and I think that's something that is causing us a little bit of consternation in terms of what we don't really know what the impact obviously is going to be of that, but there will no doubt be some need to mobilise to support that, and obviously we'll be looking to collaborate with as many of our partners as possible to ease any significant impacts there. Program for government, so I've just mentioned it. There are actually a number of things that will be of interest to yourselves, not least the Young Person's Guarantee. Now, obviously, we're talking about support for young people at the moment in this webinar. The Young Person's Guarantee is a clear commitment to support people up to the age of 25 and offer them, I think that's the key part to this, is to offer them a placement or a place in training, education, help them into employment or self-employment. Now, as I said, it's kind of early days on all of this. What the minister announced yesterday, and I can share that with you because it's now out there in the public domain. So I'll share that with you after the webinar, in terms of what was said, but it's a clear commitment. It's the start of the journey on the Young Person's Guarantee. We are looking to use Careers Wales through the Working Wales system to act as the single entry point into the guarantee, and to work with young people to kind of move them into the best opportunity for them. We have a lot of provision out there that already exists and does some amazing stuff already, and it will all feature as part of the provision that sits underneath the guarantee itself, and I'll talk about those in the next slide, but you probably know about all of them anyway. So that's the Young Person's Guarantee and where we're going with that. Obviously, program for government, it's a broader agenda there. I think there's a very clear kind of commitment to basically make sure that nobody is left behind in Wales, that there is opportunity for everybody in Wales. So you can see there on the slide, there are a number of things that actually relate to the work that you do through the TUC and the unions. The Wales Union Learning Fund is definitely referenced in the program. New program for government. So I covered off the Young Person's Guarantee. Yes, so I'm talking now about Wales Union Learning Fund and the fact that it is referenced in the program for government. The specific wording is something along the lines of build on the success of Wolf. So there's a clear commitment there and a clear recognition that Wolf provides excellent opportunities. And from what I understand, obviously I'm new to this, so far what I've heard, it's eminently flexible and provides some really excellent opportunities for people. So this is clearly recognised by the government, and we'll be looking to see how we can build on that over the next few years. There's reference here now to green representatives. I believe that's something that's already happening within unions. It mentions, I'm just going to try, support, find it in the document, support the Wales TUC proposals for union members to become green representatives in the workplace. That's something that I'll be working on with colleagues to try and support that and develop that. Obviously, apprenticeships have a huge impact for young people, and they're great opportunities. And we've got commitments again within Programme for Government to increase the number of apprenticeships and actually target specific sectors such as care and Welsh speakers as well. So there's a clear commitment around apprenticeships too. And we've also got our group of disabled people's employment champions. So, they are out there talking to employers. Actually, I do have a little bit of a call for assistance in this. These champions have only been in place for a few months, so they're still finding their feet. So they're trying to access as many networks as they possibly can to gain access to employers to help determine what they need to support their disabled workers. So if you've got any employers that would be interested in getting involved, please let us know so that we can start engaging with them. So quite a lot going on with the Programme for Government there, and all of those will have some degree of impact for younger people. You're probably not going to be able to read this now, it's probably too tiny, but I'll just canter through these. So this is just basically Welsh Government related employability and skills support that's out there at the moment, and I'll talk about a couple of the things that are happening there, because a number of these programs are naturally coming to an end. Their contracts are finishing. So we're currently in the process of developing their replacements and looking at the good outcomes and the best practice from those programs and seeing what we can replicate into the new provision that's coming on board from next year. Obviously, we've got Wolf. We've got our employability support program. That's coming to an end. Jobs Growth Wales, that's been around for a number of years. In fact, I remember when that was first introduced because I was project managing it. So yeah, that's been around for a very long time. It's changed its shape over the years, but again, that one is coming to an end. Traineeships, that's for 16 to 18-year-olds and provides things like employability support and work placements. That's been running for a number of years, and again, that one's coming to an end. We've got our React program for redundancy. Again, that one is going to come to an end, but be replaced by something probably bigger and better. I'll talk about that in a moment. Actually, I'm gonna bring Emma in on some of this stuff, because Emma, my colleague Emma Benger, who's sitting out there somewhere, is involved in some of the development of these things, so she'll be able to give you a bit more detail. Apprenticeships. Just to mention there that the employer incentive, which I believe was one of the elements of the COVID commitment, is currently in existence, but that is due to expire on the 30th of September. We also have personal learning accounts, flexible skills program, and healthy working Wales. So there's a raft of kind of provision that's out there at the moment. I'm not mentioning any of the other stuff that DWP does or some of the more local provision. This is just specifically Welsh Government support. A lot of this information about each of these programs is available through the Welsh Government website and our Business Gateway, Business Skills Gateway website, which I think the link to that was posted in the chat bar. So that's available, but I can share all of these with you again if need be. So if I just go to new programs in development, there's a few things here that we need to mention. So as I said, a number of our current provision is coming to an end, and we are replacing it with, well, we could have come up with some better names, I'm sure, but we've got Jobs Growth Wales Plus, which is effectively going to be one of the key arms of the Young Person's Guarantee, and will replicate, take forward the best bits out of things like traineeships and the current Jobs Growth Wales programme. That is currently in procurement at the moment. So unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to give any more detail on that because of the commercial confidence aspect of that procurement. Emma, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
Can I ask you, would you? Yes, I can hear you. So would you be able to talk about React Plus?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
We can say a little bit more about the React Plus programme because it isn't actually a procured programme. So we're a bit freer in what we can say at this particular stage. But similar to Jobs Growth Wales, we have kept the best features of React based on recommendations from several evaluations and feedback from partners, stakeholders and employers. So as is current, the new React Plus programme will still have a vocational and skills training element and will still be up to the value of £1,500. There will also be extra support available for the participant in terms of covering expenses such as childcare and transport whilst they attend their training. And for the employer, the wage subsidy feature will still be part of the programme. So currently, if an employer takes on an individual who's been made redundant or unemployed in the last 12 months, they can claim up to £3,000 as a wage subsidy. In addition, as part of React Plus, if they take on anybody within the 18 to 24 cohort, or anybody with a disability, they will get an extra £1,000 towards that wage subsidy. Again, the 18 to 24 is there to support that young person's guarantee. In terms of what else is new with React Plus, we've also, through recommendations of evaluations, and we do know that more people now present with additional employment barriers. For example, those barriers can be mental health, lack of confidence, self-esteem, motivation, and also to more sort of practical barriers. They may need something so that they can start that particular job. So as well as accessing the vocational and skills training, those participants will also be able to access a personal development grant. And at the moment, we're proposing that that personal development grant is up to an extra £500, but that is currently still being worked on. There will also be a mentoring programme attached to React Plus, because again, we recognise that some customers do need a little bit more support, a little bit more hand-holding to coordinate and make things happen on a more practical day-to-day basis to get them back into work. Those are the additional benefits of React Plus. It is still for those people 18 and over, and those that are no more than 12 months away from the labour market, and for customers who have, unemployed or recently made or under notice of redundancy. We've added one additional cohort to React Plus, again to support the young person's guarantee. So for any young person who's left sixth form, college or university and still finds themselves unemployed 3 months after they've left, providing we can evidence that unemployment, they will also be eligible for React Plus support. So those are all the additions. Some of those things are being worked through in more detail, but as you can see, there's lots of added features to the React Plus programme. Do you want me to cover job matching as well?
Yes,
Nick?
please. Yes, I was going to say yes, thanks.
Okay. So job matching is currently in a pilot with Working Wales. And I think it's something that's been discussed over a number of years and trialled several times in the past. And it's about making sure that there's a mechanism in place across Wales where customers who need to access employment, there's a facility where they can sort of put their preferred occupations, their skills, their qualifications into a system, and that matches to an employer's opportunity, and also vice versa. Should an employer have a particular opportunity and a particular skill that they're looking for, then the job matching pilot will be able to work in that direction as well. So supporting employers to find skilled talent to possibly put forward to go into those jobs. So at the moment, like I said, it's in a pilot phase with Working Wales, and we do want to reach out to employers, partners and stakeholders as part of this pilot. And specifically, the pilot up until March 22 will be trialled across the North Wales region, and then specifically in city centre of Cardiff, just so we can have a rural-urban mix. And really think about what the job matching pilot needs to look like moving forward, as it is also a key feature of the Young Person's Guarantee. And I forgot to mention, the other additional thing for React Plus as well is it will be measured on employment outcomes, and therefore we do need to support more people into good, fair work and employment outcomes as well. So it is in pilot phase, but likely to be rolled out based on feedback and further evaluation of the pilot over this year. Okay, that's it in a nutshell, Nick.
Thanks, Emma. So just to go on to my final slide then, just to kind of highlight the other types of support that's out there, which I've already mentioned. Skills Gateway for Business, that's kind of like the repository for all of the support offers that we have. So any employer or individual can go on there and have a look, and it would be useful for yourselves through the unions to have a look at those. That's, as I say, it's a repository for all of the support that we have. Working Wales, then, they've got a very key role in all of this. Certainly, as we develop the Young Person's Guarantee, as I said, they're going to be the kind of single point of entry for the guarantee, and as Emma mentioned, then job matching will form a feature of that. We also have a bunch of community employability programs. We've got our Communities for Work Plus, Parents and Childcare in Employment. So they sit within our communities teams in Welsh Government, but they offer a great deal of a broad range of support for people looking to enter employment and support whilst in employment. So the Parents and Childcare one is a really useful scheme to access for people who have childcare needs. So basically, there's a very quick canter for you, and apologies for the technical issues at the beginning. I think that just to wrap up on this, and to go back to what I was saying at the beginning, with the Minister for the Economy making his oral statement yesterday about the Young Person's Guarantee, within that, he made a call to action, really, to anybody that's out there that could offer support for young people. It's basically to get involved, join in the conversations that are likely to happen or are going to happen over the summer months. The Minister is going to write out to public, private sector, third sector organisations and bodies. No doubt TUC will receive one of those letters as well, basically outlining the call to action. Like I say, asking you to get involved, promote the Young Person's Guarantee wherever you can and whenever you can. Obviously, businesses, employers will have a key part to play in providing things like apprenticeships and work experience, etc. And also, Working Wales will act as a bit of a repository for the provision that's available. So they'll be doing an exercise where they're collating all of that. So if things like Wolf or any other programs that you're involved with that you would like to feature on Working Wales, so that young person, when they're having their conversations and looking at what's available in their local area, they'll be able to identify some of the programs that you're involved with and make the relevant access there. So that call to action is very important, and as part of that, there'll be a set of conversations with young people themselves, because we really need to hear from the young people that are going to be affected by all of this, to make sure that we're putting the provision in the right place and that it works for them. So you'll hear over the summer quite a bit of activity going on around those sorts of things. So it is basically get involved, and we'll be feeding further information out to you as and when it becomes available. I think that's me done. I'll stop sharing.
Fantastic. That. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Emma.
Okay.
Really useful. I don't need to apologise for the technical issues. I've had much worse. No, I think that's really interesting. I think what's evident in terms of the statement that the Minister made, and in the programme for government in general, I think, is there's a lot of shared priorities in what unions are doing and what Welsh Government are doing. I mean, he mentions things like the Green Reps and Wolf, and disability champions, which we are, by the way, Nick, engaging with. We have invited them to the Wolf network already. Terry Mills has come along to the last Wolf network, and that call to action, I think, as well. I think the unions, if we expand the model that Candy and Sue and Richard were talking about earlier out more widely, I think we will be able to provide a lot more evidence of really positive partnerships where unions and employers are doing a lot of work for young people. So that's a really interesting element as well. So we'll do our best to drag some good examples out from the unions as well over the coming years and months. Right, moving on. The next item on the agenda is my colleague Gareth Hathaway, who many of you will know. He's going to talk us through. We've got a really good resource that we launched last month aimed at reps supporting young workers in the workplace, and he's going to talk us through that. Gareth?
Thanks, Derry. And Richard, I don't mind you stealing my thunder. It shows you paid attention last time I spoke, so that's always a good thing. So the challenges facing the trade union movement really is twofold. Trade unions need more young members, and young workers need trade unions. And ideally, those two problems marry themselves up and that problem will fix itself. But in reality, things are never as simple as that. As Richard mentioned, we are reaching a demographic cliff edge. Less than 1 in 20 under 24-year-olds are in a trade union. And also concerningly, more than half our reps are over 50. So if you think about your branch and you think about your members' meetings and you think about it as like a game of Guess Who, and you can see all the faces of people in your workplace there, and you start knocking the ones down that might not be there in 10 to 15 years' time. If you're knocking more tiles down and still standing up, then we've got a problem within that workplace on how we address and reach out to young people, and also how we succession plan as reps to make sure that someone comes in with that experience to be able to represent that workforce. Your last day as a rep shouldn't be your last day in work. The best gift you can leave your union is a strong branch. So the toolkit looks at things like succession planning, mentoring, and how we think about how we give young people the opportunity to become reps and then support them. When you first become a rep, no doubt you mapped your workplace as part of your training. It's important that mapping is an ongoing process. So if you haven't done that recently, I would ask you to maybe think about doing that again now and looking at what shifts people work, what areas they work in, and what's their demographics. And if you can look at that and look at your membership list and then look at the mapping you've done and see that there is gaps there with you've got young people working for you, but they're not in unions, that's something then you can engage on that conversation. It'd also be quite good to look at, have your workplace got any apprenticeships? Has your workplace got Kickstart placements that you haven't engaged with yet? And then have those conversations with those people. Because our research shows that young people don't think unions are for them. They think it's for older workers rather than younger workers. They think it's for people who have careers rather than jobs. But we know that's different, and we know the unions are for everyone. So in order to engage with young people, we need to engage with them with an offer that's compelling and interesting for them. I think sometimes people think, if I want to engage with young people, I need to be really good at Instagram, or I need to be really good on Twitter, and then that's how I engage with people. And those platforms are really useful for engaging with new audiences and getting your message out there, but nothing will replace good old-fashioned face-to-face organising. And if you want to find out why someone hasn't done something or is not interested in something, or or what have you, the best course of action is to have that conversation with them, to find out why they might not be interested in a union, or they might not understand where a union is. So your 10 reasons to join a union Instagram posts are quite useful, but to be honest with you, I've never seen anyone who've seen that post and gone, do you know what, I will join a union now. The meaningful engagement from a face-to-face meeting is much more valuable. And we know that young workers are less likely to have access to training and training opportunities. We've seen some wonderful presentations early on from Merthyr Valley Homes showing how an organisation do invest in young people and how that partnership working happens. But we also know there's a number of workplaces where the only training a young person gets is their induction and maybe some sort of legal minimum health and safety training, and that's it. So we really need to be speaking to young people, because trade unions can help support with that training and can help with those career aspirations and marry those two things together. So the toolkit goes into things like mapping, succession planning, some of the barriers that are facing young workers. But there's lots of handy hints and tips in there. And I ask you to please download it, have a little look at it. And if you want us to come to your branch and do a little bit more presentation on this, I'm more than happy to do that. And I'm happy to take questions as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gareth. Like I said, that resource, that toolkit's out there. It's only been launched a month and we want to get out as widely as possible. And there's so much, that we need to learn about this. So, Gareth, am I right in saying they did that? I don't know who did it. I was thinking it was Cal Rope. We used to talk about this. When they did that, they asked young workers where they go if they had trouble, if they had a problem at work. What was top?
Google was first.
Google, there we go.
If someone had an employment problem, they would Google it. And then second is they would go to HR.
Yeah. So we've got some work to do.
We've got some work to do, yeah.
On this. But we're going to take questions now, sort of at the end for all the panelists, if that's okay. We've got about sort of just over 15 minutes left. So we've been having a couple come through on the chat that have come through on my phone. So if that's all right, I'm going to sort of fire the questions at the panelists. Is that all right with you lot? You all up for that? We got about 15 minutes left. So the first one I think is for Candy. I think it was like someone asked a question: how many placements have you got a quota for how many placements from Kickstart you're seeking to retain into work at the end of this, or is it more of a sort of system that you negotiate with the unions? That was for Candy.
So at the moment, we haven't got a quota of how many placements we're looking to retain. We are engaging and pushing, obviously, the apprenticeship fund to all our partnership organisations. So obviously that's due to expire end of September, but our contractors are thinking about taking on some of these young people. So I think that's really good.
Brilliant. And I think if I remember from when we spoke as well, you are pushing, we're working with some of your contractors as well, aren't you, to get some people employed in other organisations that link into Merthyr Valley Homes as well. So there's other opportunities to promote it as well. That's great. Is a question for Welsh Government as well? I think it was Emma who mentioned that some of the programmes will be measured on employment outcomes, and one of the questions was, is there a measure for within that, and how are you measuring that? And is there a measure in that for quality, in terms of the quality of the outcomes?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, with Fair Work? What does quality look like in terms of an employment opportunity? However, we are keen on sustainable employment. What we don't want to see is, like you said, I think in your introduction, Derry, is find a job for just for the sake of getting a job, and actually, within a couple of weeks or a couple of months, they're out of work again. So it is about definitely sustainable employment, and there will be far more robust tracking measures in terms of the new React Plus programme, and actually more engagement with customers post, once they're in employment. Do they need any further support when they're in employment? Can we support them again via Working Wales for in-work progression? Because as we know, being in work poverty is another issue that we need to support. So it's always about looking to support people to progression as well, via personal learning accounts, or again, the plethora of support that is available across Wales currently. So we will track and measure those outcomes far more robustly than we do currently. Hope that answers the question there, Derry.
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think it's as you can tell from the discussions we've had, I think this is a really important area for unions. I think it's we are constantly saying, and I think there's a lot of goodwill in Welsh Government, but public funding does need to not drive up more precarious and poor quality work. I think it's counterproductive to the economy, and you know, I think we all want that. It's just, like I said, we need the employer engagement as well on that. On that discussion.
I think, yeah. Just to jump in on that, I think that's a really important aspect of this, and I you know, it's very clear that the government has this commitment to fair work, and you know, that's the kind of driving ambition behind all of this. So it's but our influence only goes so far, doesn't it? So it's, you know, down to employers to a certain degree, and it's not kind of relinquishing any responsibility around that. We need to make sure that we bring all of the partners that we work with together to make sure that that is the top of everybody else's agenda. And I think, you know, if we can demonstrate it through the programs that we put in place, things like, you know, the job matching service, that's an important one. And I've heard questions already about that in terms of, well, you know, could any old job go on there? And it's like, well, we've got to have a commitment to making sure that those jobs that we are supporting through the pilot are good jobs. Not any old job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. So I think the next question has come up on the Q&A chat is I don't quite know how to direct this, so I'm going to try and direct this to the union type. So I'll direct it to Gareth first, but feel free to dip in, Richard and Sue. So how do we engage with, or anybody really on the panel, how do we engage with those on precarious contracts who are led to believe that employers will either cut their hours to a bare minimum or put them on zero contracts? You know, this attitude of, like, you know, joining a union, it might be detrimental to your career, I think is what Pasley's saying there. So, Gad, do you want to start that? But any panelists feel free to chip in on that one.
I mean, that's a $64,000 question, isn't it? It's such a difficult one to deal with. I think we can look at it from two different angles, I suppose. Firstly, I think legislation would be one thing. So banning 0 hour contracts, so that's not an option for the employer in the first place. And also we could look at things like sectorial bargaining and that sort of element to try and raise those standards within workplaces where it's harder for those employers to band together and try and get those better terms and conditions for themselves. But then the other thing is, and I think this is, we see things like this in Amazon and Deliveroo and that sort of thing, where it's difficult to organise in a workplace that has a high turnover of staff, because it's difficult for that organiser to get around everyone and get the numbers up, because there's quite a churn of staff. And also one of the barriers is the employer saying we put it on 0 hour contracts, but also another barrier is people seeing that as themselves as a transient employee, thinking, well, I'm only going to be here a couple of months and then I'm going to get something else. So they might not join a union because they see it as a career thing rather than a job thing. And that's another barrier we need to get over, is to show people that even if you're only going to be in a job for a couple of weeks, it's still worth being in a union because we can still help you.
Yeah,
so it's that communication thing as well as challenging the employer and legislation. So it would be a 3-pronged approach, I suppose.
Well, cheers, guys. Anyone else want to come in on that one? Obviously, Richard,
can I just... sorry.
No,
Nick,
Richard first.
Sorry.
Richard first.
Richard first. Okay. All right.
Yeah, just supplementing what Gareth said there, I think, you know, none of us are blind to the fact that it's not going to be a difficult thing to overcome, you know, but it's about building a message from the ground up and helping young people understand the value of trade unions, even before they enter an employment. You know, trade unions in schools is an important thing that we need to return to. And I think the building of social partnership between Welsh Government employers and trade unions will also play an important role in this. But the reality is there will always be precarious employment out there, employers who take advantage of those that work for them, and it will always be difficult. But, you know, all we can do is keep pushing the message and hoping that these young people engage and that eventually we turn the tide on the demographics that we see at the minute, where young people are reluctant or don't see the value in joining trade unions. I think a lot of what we talked about today is going to help turn that tide.
Brilliant. Cheers, Rich. Nick?
Yeah, actually, it was interesting, reference to social partnerships. I think that they're going to be key to some of this. But I think we do have a lever in Welsh Government in terms of the funding that we put out there, wherever it may go. It's kind of like a quid pro quo kind of approach, isn't it? So if we're working with employers and we're giving them support and putting some money into them, then obviously there'd be a level of expectation that they're going to treat their employees well. And if not, then the funding goes. So, you know, and there's a clear commitment, I think, from ministers that is the approach that we support. So
yeah, I think
just
that's
from a slightly different perspective. But...
No, absolutely. I think that's something that does come through in a lot of discussions we're having. It's just how you implement that is the important next stage to that.
Yeah, it is. It is the biggest challenge.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah. Right, so we got another question for Candy, I believe. If you're happy to take another one, Candy, is that all right? This one, I think it's a really interesting question. It's that basically, how much is it the funding through Kickstart and that the driver, or how much is it actually the social responsibility of your organisation? Because I think what this question is getting at in a way, I suppose, is it actually benefits your organisation, I think, to support the young people in the community and as a community benefit, which actually, makes your job and makes the work of your organisation more successful, I think, in a way. So how much is it that it's about the funding, or would you do it anyway, in so much as supporting your community?
Yeah, I think, and this is something I think I addressed at the start of the presentation. For us, Kickstart is very important, especially so now more than ever with the pandemic, that we give something back to our communities. And like I said, we've tried to get tenants on board as well. Don't get me wrong, Kickstart is opened up to everybody. But we have, worked closely with our internal teams to promote this scheme, to try and get some of our tenants on board as well. But yeah, for us, it is very much about our social responsibility, rather than the actual funding that comes along with the scheme. Brilliant, cheers, Candy. I think for us, that's what really came through in your presentation. I think it's about an organisation being at the heart of a community and supporting its community as well. And I think it's a model, hopefully, that a lot of people on this call will take away and try and replicate in other organisations, I think. Absolutely. And just one more point to make, before Kickstart was introduced in 2019, our mutual launched Brighter Futures. And Brighter Futures then is a scheme where we've looked at helping tenants into employment and develop new skills. So prior to Kickstart, we already kind of had a little bit of a function set up. We'd already been working with our tenants. So then when Kickstart was launched, and obviously the pandemic hit as well, we thought it was crucial to really embrace that project. As part of our kind of Brighter Futures, which we'd already launched prior in 2019. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Candy. So one more question. We've got time for one more question, and I'll wrap it up if that's okay. I'll check this out, I suppose, to all the panel, really. This question sort of is, I think we've already answered this in quite a lot of presentations, but maybe I'll start with Gareth on this. What sort of method of training do reps, what support do reps need? Additional support the reps need to help them communicate better with young people? I know we've got the toolkit, but is there more we could do around different mediums, different platforms? Is this sort of thing enough, or do we need to do more campaigning style stuff? And I'll throw that out to everyone, but I'll start with Gareth.
I think sometimes it's easy to think, young people in this group, and then this age group in this group, as if people are completely different species almost. So what I would say is young people are this, they have their needs and wants. They might be slightly different to what people from other age demographics, but they're still concerned about work, the same as any other age group. They still have concern about training needs and paying their bills, and same as all of us. So I think it's important that we don't siphon off. Because one of my concerns is too often unions will think we'll just do a youth committee and then that will fix the problem, rather than give young people an opportunity just to be a normal rep and just to come to branch meetings and be part of the union movement in a meaningful way, rather than a tokenistic approach sometimes. So if we want to engage with young people, it's useful, like I said, it's useful to have that IT, that sort of social media stuff, because that does help get you out to audiences you might not normally reach. But just have conversations with people about their needs, and look at your union's campaigns around things like wages, not based on ages, those sort of campaigns that relate to young workers, and speak to them about those things and find out what their concerns are. And then it's okay to say, leave that with me, I'll come back to you and see what I can do about it. Engage with them and speak to people like adults, I suppose, is how you do it, rather than tokenize young people as young and then at different ages. Brilliant. Does anyone else want to come in on that one?
I will, yes. I think The education programme for reps has got quite a big part to play in building those networks to identify ways in which reps feel they need support and training to just enhance their ability to, improve their communication skills and their awareness of all the issues. And it's difficult to know for reps to know what's out there. So, from our perspective, from Richard and I, a very important part of what we do is to make contact with reps across our workplaces at every given opportunity to just inform them. And to get that feedback. But I do think that as an organisation, the Welsh TUC has got a really important role to play with all WOLF projects, all 18 of them, to identify ways that we can connect more effectively to get those issues across to our branches and our districts.
Absolutely, cheers, Sue. Emma, did you want to come in on that one? I think
Yeah, just more so about the young people, really. I know, I think Gareth mentioned earlier about, does it need to go into schools? Does it need to be part of sort of the new, curriculum in terms of understanding what unions are about and what they do? It's just the young people these days, they are far more vocal and they do have a voice, but it's about tuning into what's important to them as well and making it almost attractive somehow. Do they really know all the benefits of being part of a union and everything that comes with that in terms of training, support, funding? Or do they still see it, depending on the type of background and family they come from, as, back to the coal mine generation? You can imagine in some areas of Wales, that's the conversation in terms of what unions do. And just wonder whether there just needs to be a different approach in attracting young people into unions and all the benefits, not just your union here is to support you on work-related matters, but actually there's all of the opportunities that you can have through unions as well, and what turns them on really, what switches that young person on. I don't know.
There's a lot of issues, I think, that's just about that, and there's a lot of evidence to show that young people come to unions now on issues like sort of things like net zero and the environment and things like that, as they do for their sort of old-fashioned solidarity reasons, I think. So,
exactly.
A lot of work on that. Does anyone else want to come in quickly before we wrap this up, and then I'll finish off for the days?
I'll leave Nick come in. It's fine.
What was that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there were little hands up there. So I just wanted to just say two things, I suppose. The first one is I mentioned about kind of like the activity that we'll be doing over the summer to kind of connect with young people and talk to them about what they want, whether or not there's any opportunity for us to kind of connect on some of those things, I don't know. We're still working on that, to be honest. So whether or not we kind of engage with the unions and have an event through the unions to talk to young people, I don't know. It's a possibility. And the other thing I suppose is in terms of your union reps then and supporting them to support young people. Obviously, we support the WOLF programme. If you think there's something more that we could be doing to support that and to support you with your knowledge and experience around that, then let us know, let me know, because I'm responsible for the WOLF programme in Welsh Government. So, let me know and we'll see what we can do. So there's an offer.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up now because otherwise we're going to go slightly over. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you to all our contributors today, like to Candy, Richard and Sue. I mean, Candy, that was a brilliant presentation. And I hope your young people who are fantastic go on to bigger and better things. And we'll try not to overuse you in the future because that was such a good example. You might find we're going to annoy the crap out of you just trying to get you to come to every event from now on. But that was really good. So a massive thanks to Nick and Emma as well. I think it's clear there's a lot of sort of alignment between what unions are trying to do in this agenda and what Welsh Government are trying to do. So obviously, hopefully we can carry on working together. And to Gareth as well, we'd like just to highlight some of the resources we've got. We have got a feedback form that Flick has posted, which as many of you would like to fill in as possible. We are going to put this up on our website. And, we're going to be trying to constantly develop resources to help unions address this issue. And I'm sure we'll be back in touch at some point. So thanks, everybody. Have a safe journey back to your settees or wherever you're going. And have a good day. All right. Thanks a lot. Cheers out.